Hello everyone, welcome back to the Blockman editor tutorial. In these videos, we will give you a complete introduction to the Blockman editor. In this video, we will learn about the interface nodes. Alright, let's get started. Go to the editor and create a grassland project. Set up an entity template with any entity in the scene, and click on the template settings of the template to enter the property list. Click on the Trigger Edit to enter the Trigger Edit interface. Create any new trigger node, drag and drop the execution port, and find the interface node list. The interface nodes include Set Overhead Text, Display Tips, Open Shop, Display System Dialog, Display Dialog. Next, let's look at the effect of these action nodes. First is the Set Overhead Text node, which is used to set the text content to be displayed at the top of the entity instance. It is often used to achieve the effect of displaying the entity score or title. We can adjust the position of the text by filling in the values in the parameter setting fields for horizontal position and vertical position. The next node is Display Tips, which is used to display text tips on the player's screen. We can select the position of the tip by using the drop-down menu. As for the display time, it is used to set the length of time that the tip's text will be displayed. Next is the Open Shop node, which is used to display the store interface on the player's screen. It is often used to click or touch a merchant NPC, or store building in a scene to open the G-Cube shop. Then there is the Display System Dialog node, which is often used to send a system dialog in the chat messages, that can only be seen by the sender. As for the Display Dialog node, it is often used to display the dialog interface on the player's screen. It is often used to achieve the effect of interactive dialogue with the NPC entity in the scene. We can specify the dialogue content of each dialogue, and the sender of each dialogue through the dialogue list. Next, let's go through a few examples with the interface nodes. Example 1 aims to achieve the effect of, when the player enters the game, the text "Welcome to the game world" will be displayed on the screen. Example 2 aims to achieve the effect of, when clicking on NPC 1 in the scene, the G-Cube shop interface will be opened. Example 3 aims to achieve the effect of, when clicking on the NPC 2 in the scene, the screen will display a dialogue between the player and NPC 2. First, let's edit example 1. Select the player entity template, and enter the Trigger Edit interface. The first step is to create a new trigger node for when the entity enters the game. The second step is to double-click on the execution port, and select the Display Tips action node in the interface nodes. The third step is to drag and drop the list of action nodes in the entity parameters, and click on the current trigger parameters in the entity that enters the game. The fourth step is to fill in the content parameter with "Welcome to the game world." The fifth step is to fill in the setting option of the display time with 5. This completes the trigger logic of, when the player enters the game, the "Welcome to the game world" text will be displayed on the screen. Go back to the editor, click Run, and let's see the effect of example 1. Next, let's edit example 2. Here we have prepared the template for NPC 1. Select NPC 1, check the entity clickable in the basic properties, and then click Trigger Edit to enter the Trigger Edit interface. The first step is to create a new when the entity is clicked trigger node. The second step is to double-click on the execution port, and select the Open Shop action node in the interface nodes. The third step is to drag and drop the list of action nodes in the entity parameter, and click Initiator of the click in the current trigger parameters. This completes the trigger logic of, when NPC 1 is clicked in the scene, it will open up the G-Cube shop interface. Go back to the editor, click Run, and let's see the effect of example 2. Next, let's edit example 3. Select the NPC 2 that has been created in advance, check the entity clickable in the basic properties, and then click Trigger Edit to enter the Trigger Edit interface. The first step is to create a new when the entity is clicked trigger node. The second step is to double-click on the execution port, and select the Display Dialog action node in the interface nodes. The third step is to drag and drop the list of action nodes in the entity parameter, and click initiator of the click in the current trigger parameters. The fourth step is to click the Add button in the dialog list to add multiple dialogues, and fill in the content of the dialog in Content. The fifth step is to select the sender of each dialog. We should note that the effect we want to achieve is a conversation between the player and NPC2, so when selecting the dialog sender, select the entities in the order of the dialog. For example, for dialog list 1, we select NPC2. For dialog list 2, we should select the player. Then it should be NPC2 for dialog 3, and so on for the rest of the dialogues. The sixth step is to select NPC2 in the NPC settings. This completes the trigger logic of, when NPC2 in the scene is clicked, the dialogue between the player and NPC2 will be displayed on the screen. Now let's go back to the editor, click Run and see the result. We can see that in the conversation, first NPC2 speaks, click Next. It is the turn for the player to speak, then NPC2 speaks again. That's all for this video. We hope it can help you on your way to a great creator. If you want to know more about the editor, you can comment below the video or post on the official forum. See you in the next video.